This baby hits 88 miles per hour. You're gonna see some serious shit.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 34 of the Take One podcast. As always, I am your host, Michael Bish, and I'm excited because for back-to-back weeks, I have a brand new guest on the show that has not appeared. I have appeared on his show, Night of the Comments podcast, but first-time guest here, Burke, co-host of Night of the Comments podcast. What's going on, man? How you doing?
What's up, man? Going good. Appreciate you inviting me on. It took like
forever.
Yeah. But we talked
Way
about
too
it when you were on when we were talking about 90s films, and I mean that's been like 2 months now, so
which is crazy, man.
Yeah, I know.
Crazy. What's up with Night of the Comments, man? Y'all coming back with another episode soon?
Oh yeah.
I know it's crazy busy. You know, we had the holidays.
Exactly, dude. Yeah, the holidays. Just everyday life stuff. But we've got some ideas. We got some big ideas, and we're gonna kind of like, just a hint towards it, we're gonna kind of try to get away from, and you and I talked about this too, get away from doing like the top 10s and stuff for a while. And just kind of explore some stuff. Just discussions. So that should be fun, man. Have some more guests on, and maybe do a couple watch alongs too, just here and there.
Yeah, man. That's what makes me super excited about today's episode, and this was kind of your idea, so I appreciate it. But kind of stepping away from the top 10 list, and those do generate really good conversations, especially when it comes to where this places on people's list and compared to that, and does that make the list? So lists are always fun, but it's good to sit back and have fluid conversations. So I felt like the past couple months it's just been top list on the Take One podcast, outside of like a couple guest interviews. We got the Road to Scream 6 coming up, so that'll take a step away from the top, making top lists. So it's just a good breath of fresh air to kind of step away from that, as exciting as those can be.
Yeah. So you're doing with the Scream, you're doing like kind of a series, right?
We did it with Halloween Ends, where I basically reviewed each episode each week was a Halloween movie, and we just went and I had a guest on for each one, and that one was kind of tough because there's so many in the franchise, so there was a lot of double guests booked for that, and but it still went really good, and then we had a round table at the end. Which went really well, and we're kind of doing the same thing for Scream as well. So
it's a cool idea, man. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anyone else
movie.
doing that. Yeah.
It's a big movie coming out. I don't know if I'm gonna like it. I wasn't the biggest fan of the newest Scream that had come out. But I've always tried to give movies chances and shots. But
sure.
But yeah, man, we'll see. Yeah, it was actually I had Jess on one episode, and she actually had mentioned it when we were talking about our top 10 horror movies of 2022. She had mentioned and asked if I was going to do a Road to Scream 6, and honestly I hadn't even thought about it, so I kind of got to give credit to her. It was kind of her idea.
Which Jess? The Final Girl Jess?
No. So it's Final Girl Jess. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. To answer your question, I was gonna say it's funny you say that because me and Kevin talk about this all the time, and anytime we bring up a Jess, we have to be specific about which one we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I know all three Jesses are coming on for at least one Scream movie, and two Jesses are coming on for the round table. I was sitting there thinking, like, man, 2 is going to be like, I'm trying to figure out how, when that round table comes, it's hard enough to host a show with that many people on it anyways. But like when you have people with the same name, I'm trying to figure out like, what am I going to do to make sure I call on the right person?
Yeah, that's tough, man. I don't need to worry about that one. I've got a weird name, so.
Burke, I like that, man. I like that.
Nice,
so what's up, man? How's everything been for you overall?
Man,
how's
I can't
2023
complain,
treating for you?
Holidays were good. Weather was crazy. I would say it's like maybe a every 5-year thing to where we get like a significant amount of winter weather, or something like that. And we were due for it, and it didn't snow a ton. It was probably like 4 or 5 inches, but it was just how cold it was, complicated everything. And they did like rolling blackouts that were planned, so that was a little weird. So that to like conserve energy, I guess they were shutting down areas of the grid, and it went off, and I was like, well, I guess I'm in it for the long haul. I don't know how long it's going to be, so I bundled up,
Yeah.
cut some candles on, and just kind of hung out and watched some stuff on my iPad.
Where are you at? Like what
Kentucky.
state? Kentucky? Okay.
Yep, yep.
Nice. So how'd you and Kevin meet? How did that relationship kind of form? Your co-host
S-
for Night of the Comments podcast.
So it's kind of funny. Kevin does, like, those of you that follow him, and if you don't, watch horror films on Instagram. He he explores filming locations in a way that, and like documents them with photo and video in a way that, like, I don't think other people really do. Like, it just doesn't feel the same. His is way more. It's much more art, to me, the way he does it. So he was doing some 2018 Halloween 2018, some H40 locations, and I just found them. I think I was looking at hashtags, and I found a video of his where he was at the gas station, um, and he he was just taking like a story on Instagram, and I just commented on it like, "Hey man, I love what you're doing. It's cool that like you're taking that much time out of your life, spending that much time dedicating yourself to finding these places." And it wasn't really that long after 18 had been out when he was doing this. Um, so just reached out to him, and he immediately sent me a voice message just thanking me. And after that, man, like, talk to the guy every day, um, you know, about everything. So,
Yeah.
um, super solid guy, and very glad that like I don't love social media, but there are moments to where I have to tip my hat and appreciate um, that there are good things that come out of it, and you get to meet some people you otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, I think like growing up, especially like in high school and even after high school, like I was really big into Twitter, into Facebook and stuff like that. And now the older I've gotten, I'm on them, but I'm not on them, if that makes
Hmm.
sense, as much as I used to be. Like maybe I use Twitter most of the time just like to keep up with like sports updates because I don't really watch the news or cable TV that much. I'm obviously just in the movies and in the shows whenever I get that spare time. So I'm not really on Facebook much, but I've grown to really love Instagram, and a lot of that has to do with the art aspect of it,
Hmm.
and just like this horror community that I felt like I am a part of, that you are a part of, that Kevin's a part of. This whole community that I feel like I have met some really great people in it, and so I've really grown to appreciate Instagram a lot more, because that's how I met Kevin as well. I had gone down to Wilmington for the Halloween Kills filming locations and the last Scream movie filming locations because they were done in the same area. So I was looking up on YouTube, Scream filming locations, and his video was the one that popped up. So I instant messaged him on Instagram, and he kind of got back to me pretty quickly and helped me find a couple locations. And kind of ever since then, it's funny you say that he sent you a voice message because I'd never used a voice message over there on Instagram at all until he did, and now that's like all I do. It's just easier for the
Yeah,
most part.
yeah,
So,
it really
but yeah,
is. You know,
that's how we met.
Kevin is it's funny. I wanted to say, because I'll forget to say this. Like, just like any kind of niche community, it doesn't matter what it is. But since we're talking about the horror community, um, there's like weird little like sub segments of them, and you have like, and on Instagram, you've got like the core like group of the community, and then you have people that are like reposters that all
Yeah,
all their
yeah.
pages are, but there's like their own little community, and like I don't want to knock them, but it's just funny that there's like these little like sub segments of groups, but
Hmm.
and you know what, they all like seem to support each other, so it's, you know, whatever, it's cool. um Kevin is I don't know if you found this, like looking at filming locations or really anything, but he's not a gatekeeper, man. He does not gatekeep information. He's just happy to share stuff with people and share what he's going out to do with his art, with his photo and video. And then
Yeah.
like when people ask him, um, you know, where something might be or how he did something, man, he's not going to be one of those people that wants to gatekeep that information so that just for whatever benefit that people that do that think that has. He's not that guy, and I think that
Yeah.
is why I gravitated towards just wanting to be friends with him. Just because he's open and honest. He likes spending his own time to create things for other people, and I think that's cool.
No, absolutely. I agree. And I agree with your last point on Kevin. Like, I agree with your point as far as his videos, filming location videos are just different.
Mhm.
Like guys that stick out to me when it comes to filming locations is like Adam the Woo, Scott on Tape. Like, I really enjoy their, take on filming locations, just like that classic filming locations. They're going to put themselves on camera and talk you through, what happened with this, what happened with that. And like when I watch Kevin's videos, like for example, his last filming location video with the original Halloween movie. It's just fucking art. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
it's just
It's not
it's just
about him. It's about the place and the
yeah.
art. Yeah, it's cool. It's a different take on it. It's like it's refreshing to have like a different lens on those things, and you can appreciate it. Like even if you don't like horror movies, like it's just nice art, you know. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, solid guy, Kevin. You know, we're talking you up a bunch, man, but
Yeah, we got to move off Kevin. We got to move off Kevin. No, I appreciate you, man. Love you out there.
yeah, yeah, for sure, man.
But so I want to know more about you as far as like your background as far as movies and horror movies. Have you always been into movies? Have you always been into horror? Kind of how did that kind of start for you personally?
Yeah, so I grew up around the entertainment industry. My dad, who's retired now, is a former audio engineer and sound designer, and I was around live music and some studio stuff, and just that world. Um, and it was always intriguing to me. I was a stagehand for years. Thought it was something that I was gonna want to do for a career. Looked into also being an audio engineer, but I wanted to do the film side of it. Um, so just learned a lot about it. And in terms of my love of horror, I hadn't really been exposed to any of it. I grew up out in the country, and it wasn't that I didn't have access to stuff, but it's just like that's not what you did. You didn't. I mean, it wasn't like people didn't really go to the movies or like really do anything like that. And probably around the time that like you start having sleepovers and stuff like that. So like 8, 9 years old, um, I became exposed to it because of friends. And then I kind of embraced it a little bit more than others. Like for them, it was almost just like a thing to do to pass the time that kind of have on the background. And I recognized like pretty early on that I felt different about it than my friends did. Like it was more impactful to me. And I think I always forget like my age. I'm pretty sure I was 8 years old. Um, because are you 8? You're 8 in like second grade, right? Is that right?
Uh, yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
second
you're
or third
at least.
grade. Yeah.
I think you're 5 in kindergarten, 5 or 6 in
Yeah.
kindergarten. So
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I was in second grade either way. And um it was over break. I think it was like Thanksgiving break. Um we had a little sleepover um at my house, and we had a Roadrunner video uh where I grew up. And it was actually like 30 we had to drive 30 minutes to this like little strip mall, and there's a Roadrunner video. Um and I'd always picked stuff based on the box if it looked cool. And I saw Halloween, And obviously, like, I knew Halloween the holiday, so I was like, well, this, I mean, I love Halloween. This got to be cool. And snagged it. At that point, I'd seen, I think, like, A Nightmare on Elm Street and a few other films. And that first time that I popped Halloween '78 into that VCR, man, I was hooked. I knew that there was something about it that I just couldn't stop thinking about, and from that point on, I've just been a junkie. So
Did you
I
get a chance to go see it in theaters?
I did, yeah. So I had tickets to it in theaters in 2018 when they did the 40-year stuff. And I ended up not being able to go because I was sick. Um, I was so bummed, but like I wanted to do like the '78 thing, and then I think it was the same week I was going to see H40, and
Yeah.
just wasn't able to do it. But thankfully, they had it showing at a little theater up in Southern Indiana, and I went to go see it this October, and the experience was great. Best theater experience I've had in years.
Yeah, man.
Really, really clean. Just this is a great experience, man. I loved it.
Yeah, I went for the first time back in October as well, and it was luckily I had a good experience because I feel like these days at the movie theaters, um, you're going in there praying, you get a
Yeah,
good experience.
yeah, dude.
I had a great experience. It was a very clean copy. The sound was great. The crowd was great as well. It was actually a lot more people than I had anticipated that were going to be there, um, and it worked out, man. It was so good. I had goosebumps. And it was so
Yep.
great just seeing that on the big screen.
Oh
Such an
yeah,
experience.
it's it's weird. So I thought that I got to this theater so early. And it's like a little just to kind of like paint the picture, it's like very nostalgic theater. There's still an arcade there. It's got like the confetti looking carpet. Like it's
I
very
love
old
that.
school.
I love
But
that.
it's updated, it's clean. Um you can tell that whoever manages this place cares. And I walk in the theater expecting there. Well, first of all, I pull in the parking lot. I was voice messaging Kevin, like, "Oh yeah, I'm about to pull up. Like, I'm gonna find out how busy this place is." And I pull in, and there's two cars. So I'm like, "Am I at the right place?" And I was. I walk in. There's nobody, man. I was in there with two other people. One was a mom that had I overheard them talking. One was a mom that had seen the last time she saw '78 was in theaters in '78, and she was there with her adult son who
Wow.
was a huge
Love that.
fan. Which I thought this is cool.
Mhm.
Just to like that whole whatever you want to call it, man. Just it was just a cool thing to kind of like overhear, like that
Yeah.
generational love for these films. And everything was great, man. Like you said, great, like beautiful copy of the film. Audio was great. And one thing, I don't know if you noticed this, Kevin and I talked about it a little bit. I noticed things in the film on the big screen that I'd never. It's not that I hadn't noticed them, but I guess I'd never really paid as much attention to. Um, that I really loved. The biggest one being that um, that scene uh, where Annie and Lori are driving, and the shot is from inside the car,
Mhm.
and the scene just seemed to linger, and like it seemed to last a lot longer on the big screen than it does when you're watching it at home.
Mhm.
Um, and I just love the way it was lit. Just the I mean, you could tell the sun's going down, and it was
Oh
just
yeah.
a really really cool scene, and I had never appreciated it that way before.
No, that's really cool, man. Yeah. No, I agree. I just think being in that theater period was just an amazing feeling. I still have my ticket stub. I'm gonna
Yeah, I
frame
do
it.
too. I do too. It's actually
Um,
with one of my '78 masks. I got it sitting there.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something kind of creative like that. So, um, yeah, man, it was just an experience. So I love the fact that I don't know. I know you said it was kind of a epic theater that you went to, kind of
Hmm.
old school. I have a bunch of Regal theaters near me. So,
It
um,
was a Regal. It was a Regal
okay,
theater. Yeah.
okay, yeah, and you know how, like, especially the past few years, they run. like they'll show anniversary movies a lot
Mhm.
in there. So I was able to see Scream 2 on the big screen last year, The Lost Boys on the big screen. So last year was really good for movie theater experiences for me. Just being able to see those movies that I love on
Yeah,
screen that I hadn't had a chance to back in the day. So
right.
uh, yeah, it was really good.
They
I
did, I think I actually took a story I did a story on it. I
mhm.
think they did Dawn of the Dead 3D
Oh
during
wow.
Halloween week. I didn't go. I had a lot
Mhm.
of stuff to do that week, but, yeah, just to, like, back what you're saying, it's cool that they're doing that, that they obviously somebody somewhere in their,
Yeah.
administration or executives, like, cares enough to, like, want to do that, and that's cool, you know? It's
Um,
it's rare anymore.
yeah, and kind of keeping on the movie theater stuff, I've had bad experiences before. But I just feel like going to the movies is something that I still really appreciate. And I think there's times that I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate the movie theater.
Mhm.
One, by their actions in the movie theater, and two, just really sometimes the lack of people that go to the movies these days. Like
Yeah.
I feel like everybody is so complacent with streaming. And don't get me wrong, like I love streaming and being able to have things at the tip of my hand whenever I want to go watch one of my favorite movies. But I would definitely, if it's a movie I love and want to see, I definitely want to see it on the big screen because there's no better experience than having that on the big screen. And I feel like that I don't know if it's dying, but it's I feel like it's fading a bit, and that's pretty sad to even think about for the movie
Yeah.
theater. Something
Yeah,
that
it
we love.
is. Before you hit record on here, I was telling you I was watching these like dead mall videos of
Yeah,
urban exploration, and you know the those elements of pop culture that are fading away, like right in front of our eyes. It's crazy that they're things that were such important things to me and still are.
yeah,
Um, Movie theaters and going to the mall, and like that was like a normal thing that you did all the time as a kid in the
mhm.
90s. And it's just bizarre to watch those things fade away. And like I
I
get it,
mean,
that's how it works, man. That's how.
even in high school, like early high school for me, like going to the mall on a Friday night to walk around and just BS around
Yeah.
with my friends was like that's what we did. It was fun as shit. And now you go into a mall and it's pretty dead for the most
Yeah.
part.
Oh yeah, stores, like just weird store, like places that used to be like big name stores, or like
Yeah,
yarn and thread depot, and like how do these
yeah,
places even afford even
I
afford to
know.
have stores? It's like it's just weird, man. And yeah, you're 100% right. Like high school, like we went places. Like you didn't.
Yeah,
I think sometimes I'm like, where are all these kids? Like, what do they do? Like they don't go
I know.
anywhere. They just sit and
Yeah, and
you know.
on their phone and play video game I played video
Yeah,
games as a
I do
kid, but, like,
too.
I still enjoyed other shit, you know what I mean? And I just feel like it's
Right.
not like that anymore because, one,
No.
streaming is so big nowadays. Like, my cousin, he's super smart, he's super into school and stuff like that, but, like, on his off days or when he's not at school or when he comes home from school and does his homework, he just, gets on the computer and just dominates on Fortnite and Call of Duty, and nothing's wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, that's just what it is nowadays, and it's sad, and I think we talked about this. My favorite show is just stuff like Stranger Things, and I love movies like Stand By Me and E.T. and The Goonies. And I think a big reason for movies like that because I connect with like my childhood, like going outside and riding bikes and playing with my friends and going to the
Mm.
movies and the mall and Skateland was a big thing for us. Going to the skate rink on a Friday night as well. Like
Yeah, we have champs here. So same thing. Yeah.
champs.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, just stuff like that is just slowly dying out, and it's just sad to see, man. Because people when you were in school, you would look forward to getting off from school on a Friday night and going to, like I said, going out to the mall with your friends or going out to the skate rink with your friends. Not always every single weekend or every free time hopping online and hanging
Yeah.
out with your friends. So,
And there's nothing wrong. Like
yeah,
I'll still get on
exactly.
and play, but
Yeah,
it's just
me too.
it's different, and I think it's like a disheartening thing that both don't exist still. And um it's like you feel like you're losing kind of a piece of something that you cherished,
Yeah.
because this stuff's fading. And it's not that I like fault um any generation for it happening, because it's a combined effort. Like, I mean, there's adults that are just as glued to their phones as kids,
Yeah.
but um it's weird to be in the moment and watch that stuff fade away. And I'm sure it's like that in every generation. But
Mhm.
um those were things that were like a lasting piece of, like, especially Americana. um
Mm.
and it's weird that when people talk about nostalgic things, they're talking about things from when I was a kid now. And that's
Yeah.
that's weird. That's really
It's
weird.
it's it's really weird and really crazy. It's
It
something that's
is.
really depressing too. Like I was bored not too long ago, so I drove past my old childhood neighborhood hood in an old childhood home, and no lie, Burke, like it was a pretty big neighborhood, and I maybe saw 4 kids outside playing on a really nice day.
That's
Man,
weird.
back in my middle school days or elementary school days, I mean, I could look up the street and almost every yard or the street was just flooded with kids riding their bikes and fucking around, and you just
Yeah.
don't get that these days.
No, you don't, man. It's funny. I was telling someone at work. Um he was born in 2001. So I mean,
Mhm.
he's a kid. And essentially we were describing that, like, there was no, if you were calling somewhere, you were calling a house, and parents were answering the phone, and you were asking, "Hey, is Johnny there? Is,
Yeah.
whatever." "Oh no, he's out. He's out. I don't know where he is. He said he was going to so and so's house." So then you went to that house and you knocked on the door.
Uh-huh.
Hey, is, Josh they're at? So you got on your bike and you went and found him. Like,
Yeah.
you went and rode
100%.
around until you found him, and like that, he
Yep.
could not believe. He was like, "That's crazy." He was like, what, like, you just got on your bike and rode around. I was like, "Yeah." Sometimes it would take like the whole day to find where your
Yeah.
friends were, but it's just weird, man.
Shit.
It's not.
Shit, not to age myself, but I remember going into high school, coming off 8th grade, going into my freshman year. I remember that summer just like logging onto the internet, dial up internet, and hopping on AIM and instant messaging my
Yeah.
friends and updating my top friends on MySpace. And
Did
man,
you
what a time.
did you have song lyrics for your away messages on AIM?
Oh, 100
Oh
100%.
my gosh.
100%. Yeah, I was the one that was in, like, 6th grade that would if you or 7th whenever I first got my cell phone, you called my phone, I had music in the background.
Oh, you had a ringback?
Yeah,
Yeah, ringback
yeah,
tones. Yep, yeah.
yeah. Man, what a time. What a
I know,
time.
man. It's pretty
Um,
funny.
so, so I haven't obviously, with the holidays and stuff, now the comments has been kind of away. So I kind of want to take this from y'all and because I haven't been able to hear from you. What have you been watching and listened to lately?
Uh, so I've been okay. Admittedly, I'm not like the biggest Christmas season guy.
Hmm.
Um, there are moments, there are parts of it that I like a lot. Um, so I kind of had to. I wasn't really in the spirit this year. It didn't feel like Christmas. So
Yeah,
at first I was kind of being a Scrooge, but I got into it last minute. So I watched some of my favorite Christmas classics, to include both Die Hards 1 and 2. The Really the only two that I think are Die Hards. Like, Vengeance is cool, but
nice.
it's, yeah, I don't know, it's different. But Scrooged, which is like my all-time favorite. Love Bill Murray.
Yeah,
Um, and then while the storm came through that week, I watched The Thing again. Just a classic cold weather,
yeah,
snowy
really
day.
good movie.
Oh yeah. Um, and then stuff that I hadn't seen, or that I just watched for the first time. I checked out The Pale Blue Eye on Netflix.
How'd you like that?
Um, Man, I thought it was very, very well done.
Yeah.
I'm a slow burn fan. They
Oh,
can be
okay.
very, very hit or miss, but I liked. Um, Now I'm gonna space on his name, but
Christian Bale.
no, the other kid, Harry Melling, the guy that played Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh yeah, his
Harry,
performance was phenomenal.
yeah, his performance. It's crazy. I'm gonna take this little the way that Kevin put it. It's crazy to be on screen with Christian Bale, who, in my opinion, is one of the greatest actors of our generation, and um, to outshine him in a way.
Yeah,
And
it's
and
hard
he
to do.
really did, man. But there were moments that I wish were a little bit different. They didn't really let not to give stuff away, but they didn't let some of the twists and turns breathe enough, I don't think. And
Mhm.
they ended up feeling like a little bit, excuse me, a little bit not rushed, but just there was like something more that I wanted from them. And um that's my really only complaint about it is that I wish they would have let some of the moments breathe a little bit, or develop a little bit. But
Yeah.
overall, very entertaining, and very well acted, very well shot. So I enjoyed watching it.
Anything else on your that
Uh,
you've been able to watch?
Man, I'm trying to
It
think. There was, oh, just to shout it out. I'm not a huge fan film guy, but there's and of course, now I can't think of his name. They made a fan film called Halloween Stalks in Canada, somewhere in Canada, and um, it's just a little short 14-minute fan film.
mhm.
And the guy had been very good with like continuing to put content on social media about it and follow up kind of with everything that he'd created, and it was released the other day, and it honestly blew me away in terms of like just the production value, the feel of it. He did an amazing job. Like I got to look up his name because I'm gonna feel like a jackass if I
He
don't.
uh he released it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's called Halloween Stalks.
Yeah,
um
I would love to check that out.
his name is, or Benoit, I guess, but I think it's been a while. But um
Hmm.
yeah, dude, it's worth checking out. Um I'm a pretty harsh critic of horror stuff in general, and
Yeah,
especially Halloween stuff, but he did a great job for you know what what he had to work with, and it looked
yeah.
great. The guy that played the shape did a really stellar job, and I had a lot of fun watching it. So um yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Um
No, I'll definitely check it out.
You know,
100%.
it's
Yeah.
it's rare anymore that people can like dedicate a part of them and like take a piece, like a part of their life, spend it, spend time that they otherwise could have been doing something else to
Yeah.
create something just because they love, you know, whatever, whether it's a Halloween or whatever. I think it's cool that he dedicated, a piece of his life to making that little fan film, and it's fun.
Oh
So
yeah. I love
yeah.
that. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out, man.
You've been watching, did you see The Pale Blue Eye?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie.
Are
I
you a
don't know,
slow burn
man.
guy or no?
Depends. I'm not against it. It just didn't work for me. I don't know why. I thought the performance in it were really good. It's just I don't know. I was just checked out of the story for some reason. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. So
It almost lost me, and I don't want to give spoilers away, but it almost lost me. And I'll just say this: the scene where there's something on fire,
hmm hmm
it really almost lost me there. But overall, I would say I would give it like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. I think probably for me.
That's not bad at all. That's
Yeah,
not bad
yeah.
at all. I think on Letterbox I gave it a 2 out of 5. So
Oh man, you slammed it, huh?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
All right.
I don't know. Me and Kevin were talking about like our letterbox scores and like what they mean for each person. 2 is just like I didn't enjoy it. I think anything one and below is trash. I think 3 is a good film, 4 is a great film, and 5 is a perfect film. So
What did see, letterboxes will be, I don't do them because it'd be tough for me. Like I feel like the 5 scale is
yeah.
so hard because it's like you just said, it's really up to interpretation of like who the person is, because 2 could be like a
It
very
is.
middle ground movie or a really shitty one. So
Yeah, so
it's
it all depends on the person. Like I like I'm a harsh critic too when it comes to movies. I feel like personally in general. So like when like I gave so I'm going to talk about this here in a second, but I watched the new horror movie Sick on Peacock
yeah, I've
that
seen that
Kevin
one.
Williamson just. Oh, you already saw
Yeah.
it?
No, I was gonna say I've seen that one getting rated a lot. Yeah.
So I gave it a 3 out of 5, and I had a couple people message me. I was like, "That you're shitting on the movie." I'm like, "Not really. A 3 out of 5 to me is like an okay good. It's like a good movie. I had fun with it. It's not trash. It's not going to win any Oscars. It's not great. I'll probably not rewatch it a bunch of times or if
Mm,
ever, but I had fun with it. And I don't know.
yeah.
So again, it just goes back to the scale. Like I remember when I gave the new Evil Dead remake a 3.5 or something like that. And
What did Marie attack
Marie,
you?
yeah, she messaged me. I was like, only a 3.5. I'm like, a 3.5 is pretty damn good. I'm like, that's pretty damn good to me. So, but for her coming
That's
in,
funny.
her position, it's a perfect film for her. It's her favorite. So,
Mm.
um, but yeah, that the whole letterbox thing is tough.
I like that. I really like the way it looks. Like it looks like when people post them, I always just appreciate kind of the aesthetic of it. They're
Yeah,
like
I
very
was late
clean
to it.
looking.
I've
Yeah,
only
I
had it for a
just
few months.
I just don't think I could accurately assess a movie with just 5 stars. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
It's tough.
I
The 5 scale is tough.
yeah, it really is. But I guess that's the way they do it. Like that's most critics. It's like, I
Yeah.
guess it's on a 5-star scale, but um, yeah, man. So I think it's funny that um, that's kind of become a pretty common thing now on Instagram because we live in a world where people are so like up in arms about
Yeah.
their opinions about things, and it's funny that movies are one of those things that people are still really open about expressing their real feelings about. um
Mhm.
Marie's not timid about you know
Yeah.
talking about that's her favorite film. Evil Dead's her favorite film, or like Kevin and I are adamant about that we're Halloween 2 lovers. Rob
So
Zombie's Halloween 2.
we're gonna jump into that movie because
Okay, okay.
I'm not a big fan of it. But
Yeah.
I've always said, and I'll always say this: I love that movie works for people, and that people love that movie, and that they love it and stand on their ground about it, and
Mhm.
not just for that movie, but for any movie. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
love what you love and what works for you. Like
I got
don't
some product
don't let
product placement right there.
yeah. Yeah, and don't let people change your opinion about it. You know what I mean? Don't let people
Right.
talk you out of what you
Yeah.
like and what you love. Um, so real quick, I did watch Sick. It was Kevin Williamson's new film on Peacock. I'll be honest, didn't think it was going to do much, and I had fun with it. I thought it was one of those classic slasher movies. I will say this, which was kind of a turnoff for me that I didn't think I was going to really appreciate. It happens during the pandemic,
Hmm.
but for me it works. Like I don't like if you know Kevin Williamson, like he kind of dives into that. I don't, and it might be sensitive for some people because obviously the pandemic and COVID really it took lives. So being careful with it with my words here. But like Kevin Williamson in general, he kind of, I don't want to say joked about it, but he kind of embodied that, and it just
Hmm.
worked in a way where I feel like when they had originally brought up that they were going to bring COVID into Halloween Ends, it's just I don't
Hmm.
know why, like
Yeah, it
why
was a
do that?
turnoff. Yeah.
Why do
Yeah.
that? It just, I don't know. It's just a classic Kevin Williamson slasher movie. I thought it was fun. I had fun with it. It was a good home invasion movie. I'll probably not rewatch it ever again. If I do, it'll just be because I'm bored. But I don't think it was a bad movie by any of the means. For a streaming Peacock movie, I thought it was done pretty well. And I guess my only complaint about it would be the lack of kills in it. It kind of lacks in that department for a slasher movie, especially coming from Kevin Williamson. So, but other than that, I thought it was a fun movie. And I'm actually kind of surprised that some people are rating it as high as they are. But I thought it was okay. I thought it was a good fun movie
I'll
to
have to check
watch.
it out. It's weird. It's, when people, especially last year, were saying, "Oh, 22 is a huge year for horror," um, and I think anymore it's all relative to the whatever your lens is, because for some people, it even horror fans, it really wasn't, because
True.
they didn't delve into what was out there. They were focused on things that, like,
Hmm.
franchises or projects that they were interested in. Um, so
Yeah.
it's hard to, like, accept kind of blanket statements like that sometimes, but looking back, like, looking at what, like, was given to us as horror fans,
Hmm.
um, I recognize that I've gotta do a better job of stepping outside of my comfort zone with movies and watching
Hard.
some stuff that I normally wouldn't watch,
It's very hard.
and it is, but I feel like at the end of the day, if I start to do that, and that was kinda like one of my, like, 2023 goals,
Mhm.
was to kind of just step outside my comfort zone in general in a lot of areas, but especially to do it, with film. And you know uh
100%.
dude, I wouldn't have even given the second thought about watching a fan film last year. I just never, just didn't do
Mhm.
anything for me, and I'm really glad that I watched that one, because it gave me some perspective of, like, how much, you take for granted, like, how important these things are to you. And then when
Yeah.
you recognize that other people also care a lot about them,
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
it puts it in perspective, and it makes you feel good, man. It put a smile on my face, so it was worth it.
No, absolutely, I agree, and we're definitely gonna jump into kinda like the state of horror, and we're gonna talk about 2022. That's kind of the main topic for the show. Real quick, I started watching the John Wick movies. I don't know if you've seen them.
Hmm.
Um, they're I'm not gonna lie, they were pretty badass. I know there's 3 out, I've only watched the first 2 so far. That dude's a fucking beast, especially
Oh
in the
yeah,
first one.
yeah.
Oh my god. Like,
I love
I'm
Keanu
mad
Reeves. Yeah, I
yeah,
love
I'm
Keanu
mad
Reeves.
I'm kinda late to the party because, dude, no lie, I haven't done this yet, but I would love to find if anybody has done, which I'm sure they have, a body count video for the John Wick movies because my man
There
is at
there
least
are.
in the hundreds.
Yeah,
Like,
there's a
it's
few
crazy.
YouTube videos, that have each of the kills, I think, like, edited into, like,
Yeah,
a compilation too, which,
that's
dude, that
sweet.
had to have taken forever.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel like
Forever.
it yeah, it's crazy. So, I watched those 2, really enjoyed those, because I know the 4th movie's coming out this year, and everybody is pretty big on the John Wick films, and I love Keanu Reeves as well. So, I was like, "You know what? I haven't watched this, let me watch those." So, those have been a really good watch for me so far this year. I went back and watched the original. I'm not gonna tell you how many movies I've watched so far this year because it's pretty embarrassing. But I've watched a lot. Me and Discount Final Girl Jess are doing our top 10 adaptations for Stephen King horror films next week. So I've watched, kind of refresh my brain on some of the Stephen King movies adaptation
Mm.
wise, as far as like, I
That's a
think last,
huge one, man.
yeah, last night
That's a
I watched Christine last night. I had never seen
great.
Christine,
What do
never
you
seen
think
it.
about it?
I loved it.
I think
I
it's one
loved
of
it.
John Carpenter's most beautiful pieces
Yeah,
of work. I mean,
it's
it's a
man, and
perfect
I can't.
film. It's perfect.
Yeah, and I can't wait to talk about that. I've always been a fan of The Mist, The Shining, It movie. Like, it's hard to break it. I got my 10. I will tell you this. I wasn't as big on Pet Cemetery as some people are. I'm not saying it's a bad movie or I didn't like it. I enjoyed it. It's just I don't know if it's going to be in my top 5 based on, what I love from
It's
Stephen
a
King.
it's a cult. It's like a cult following film. I love it,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
it's
It's good. Like, I don't want people to take it the
it's
wrong way that
different.
I don't
It's
like it.
different. It's
It's
like
good.
I like Thinner. I don't know if you've ever seen Thinner.
Mm-mm.
But it's like one of those movies. I'm a cheese lover. Like, if you got good cheese in a horror movie,
Yeah.
um, and it's not, it doesn't, like, take away from the rest of the story, I'm all for it.
Mhm.
Um, some people hate it. Some people hate cheesy, campy stuff.
If it works, it works.
Yeah, if it works, it works. And
You might
it's
you might like Sick, based off saying that.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it, and then when
Or-
we do Night of the Comments, the next one
yeah,
we'll talk about it.
yeah.
I
You
don't know
might
if
not,
Kevin's
but
watched it.
it's just I haven't seen him updated on Letterboxd yet,
Yeah,
so I don't think he
I don't know if
has.
he's watched it.
But yeah, yeah. So I've been watching. Kind of, there's two that I really want to try to get to before we record, and that's the Dead Zone and
Oh, dude, that sounds great.
there's. I will say
Great
this
movie.
though, this might be controversial as well, but I'm not the biggest Carrie fan. Like some
I'm not
people
either.
are.
I'm not
Okay.
really at all. Yeah,
Yeah, so
it's
that's I don't think that's gonna make my top 10, um, which is
m-
crazy. But I mean, I'm going. Yeah.
Carrie probably wouldn't even make my top 20 of.
Now, if we, especially if man, if we did like Stephen King adaptations in general, like not just horror, like I would throw like The Green Mile in there, Stand by
Yeah,
Me, Shawshank
yeah.
Redemption, like so that stuff would be in there too. But we decided just to stick to horror for now. But yeah, I'm pretty solid with my list, and it's crazy because kind of putting my list together, they're movies that I absolutely love and adore. It's just crazy
Mm,
Stephen King's like catalog. It's fucking
it
ridiculous.
is. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane, and I love um like that universe to where it's all kind of supposed to be the
Yeah.
same bizarro universe that all of these characters exist in. I think that's cool. Um, I've always enjoyed that. One of my favorite adaptations was Storm of the Century, which was a made-for-TV movie.
Hmm.
Um, it's so dark and it's so scary. Um, I remember watching it as a kid, and it just blew me away. That
Yeah.
well, first of all, that they could get away with airing something like that. Because I mean, it was scary. It's no joke.
Yeah. I
A
mean,
deep dark film.
it just goes to show like how different TV was back in the day. Because
Oh yeah.
I think of it. The original It. I
Oh
mean, that
yeah.
was
It's
it on
fucking
TV.
scary.
Like, and I'm like, fucking how? Like, how was this on TV now? Like, I remember watching the documentary on it that they released last year. I think it was last year. And they do go into detail of how hard some of that was. Dealing with I think it was ABC. And
Mhm.
just how hard it was dealing with that network and being able to get everything approved and
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
being under the microscope each and every episode. And I'm like, even what you were able to put out on TV, like that's still a shot.
Knows like what uh I've been talking about this with a few people, but like who knows what like the actual cut would have been, because you
I
can
don't know.
say like the final cut or extended cut or director's cut all day, but I always wonder like how different a film would be or feel with like that actual original cut or
Yeah.
edit of a film, and like how much more intense it would be. My mind always goes to I don't know if you know this, but Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses.
It's been a
He
long time
basically,
since I've seen that.
dude, so I love that film. I think it's actually one of his best pieces of work, but he brought it to um I guess producers and test audiences, and
Mhm.
they watched this movie, and they were like, what are you doing? Like we can't show people this. Like we can't even rate this. There's no way that you're going to be able to show this in
Yeah.
theaters. And he had to reshoot a ton of stuff and redo a lot of stuff on the film. And it turned, in my opinion, it turned out great. But I always wondered like what it would be like to see like his original version of what that movie was supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
And I know he just talked the other day, or not didn't talk, but made a post about how he posted a photo of Captain Spaulding's van. He was supposed to have a van that he drove around.
Mhm.
And all that footage was lost, and they lost like a ton of footage that they shot that they ended up reshooting. And I mean, that stuff's lost to the
Yeah.
ether, like it's gone forever. So it's just it makes you wonder, man. It makes you wonder.
So last thing before we move on, I did go see Megan.
Okay.
Because there's literally nothing out in theaters, literally at all. Like I think there's a movie called Plane Out, but that movie is doing pretty bad based on like reviews and stuff. So I was like, I'll pass. And I love Gerard Butler, but I was like, I'll probably pass on that. So I went and saw Megan, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. It's definitely not a horror movie. I don't care what anybody says. Um, they marketed that movie to a point where they had to make that movie PG-13. Like they just could not. They could not do rated R. Like the marketing for that movie was absolutely ridiculous because like they did so well with the marketing that like kids started to get attached to it and stuff like that. So I think my biggest gripe with the movie is that the kills are not what I would expect them to be um in a horror movie. Like it's
Mhm.
definitely a PG-13 movie. I would consider that movie more of a comedy drama movie than a horror movie. So if you go into it thinking it's a horror movie, you're going to be highly disappointed. It's corny, but they embrace the corniness of it. And I definitely don't consider it a horror movie. If I put it in that horror category, it would be very low for me. But just judging it based off like a movie film, I
Mm.
thought it was pretty solid. I walked away not disappointed.
I'm just not
And
dolls, man. I have always I'm
not a big fan either.
not a Chucky
I like
fan, not a Child's
not at
Play.
all,
This has never been
not at
my
all.
thing. No, no. I you know what? I didn't mind. I've got to be in the mood for them, but like the later iterations
Oh,
of like
okay,
Bride of Chucky and those, like I don't mind those.
nice.
Um,
That's good to hear
I th-
because usually it's the other way
yeah,
around.
yeah.
Like for me, I enjoyed the first and second one, and then after that, it really falls off. And if I'm
It's
being
like
honest with you, I don't. I'm with you. Like you got to be in the mood. Even though I enjoyed those
yeah.
first two, I can't say I sit here and watch at least one of them every year. You know what I mean?
It's almost like it's hard. It's the believability factor for me. Like it's hard, and I know that sounds ridiculous for a horror fan, but
No, no, I
um,
agree. I agree
it's
though.
this like the seriousness of the Child's Play films are what
Yeah.
lose me, and then
Mhm.
where they almost that kind of like arcadey, like comic bookish feel to where it's like intentionally not serious
Yeah.
and ridiculous is what I like. Like it's kind of what I gravitate towards for films like that.
Mhm.
Um because at the end of the day you're talking about a possessed doll, and
Yeah.
um I like the way I like what Jennifer Tilly adds to those movies and like where
Agreed.
the direction that
Agreed.
they went, and they're fun. They're fun. They're rewatchable, and that's why I prefer like that. That's my brand of if I'm doing Chucky, that's what I got to go with.
Yeah, and I think the thing that works with Megan is it's not a possessed doll. It's an AI doll that just goes wrong for,
Which
whatever
is
that reason
yeah,
is. I'm
yeah,
not gonna ruin it for anybody. And
no,
again, another thing that I did not like was it's fucking Universal and Blumhouse, so a lot of the good stuff was in the trailer. So that was pretty disappointing. Like a lot of the high points in the movie I'd already seen. So
well, dude,
again,
that's I think uh it's funny you just mentioned that. That's like a great transition right there into
let's do it.
the I mean, you're two words there. Oh, well, really one word, Blumhouse. Um,
Yeah.
dude, I
So
just
I guess I really want to talk about I guess the current state of horror and kind of how you feel about that because I know you had talked to me before and we've talked a little bit about you not being the biggest modern horror fan and I'm definitely one of the I don't I'm not even afraid to admit this like I enjoyed the movies that we got last year a lot
mm,
and what's kind of disappointing about that in a sense if I'm looking at it from what I love one of two of the biggest disappointments last year for me personally was franchises that I love.
mm,
Like I wasn't the biggest fan of Scream. I don't think it was dog shit garbage, but it's probably one that's the last on my list if I had to do the rankings. Between that and maybe 4. But so that was disappointing to start off the year, and then all this build up for ends, and we can sit here and talk about that for hours, but that was highly disappointing. So the 2 franchises that I absolutely love was like my biggest disappointments for horror, and I didn't expect that really going into the year. Um, like I don't know, because like I knew where they could possibly go with ends, but like they just went in a completely different direction, dude. Like, you can say what you want about Kills. I know you're not the biggest fan of Kills. I like Kills a lot more than a lot of people, but goddamn, at least they didn't make Michael Myers a fucking little bitch in that. Like,
mm,
I
yeah,
can't tell you how like as a Halloween Michael Myers fan, sitting there and watching Ends, how he was portrayed on the screen, how disappointing and deflating that was as a
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah. I mean, it's for me, Scream. I knew. Um, I intentionally avoided any like promo stuff, any trailers, anything for that film. The only one that I saw was when I went to go see Kills, and
Okay.
um intentionally avoided everything to do with it. Like muted
Hmm.
people on Instagram that were posting stuff, and uh wasn't able to go see it in theaters, and waited, watched it streaming, and it was like just a gut check, man. It was like just, I mean, you kill like the character that, I mean, that makes the franchise, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know how you I don't know how you where you go from there, but um, so like you said, not off to a great start for me. And
Hmm.
in terms of ends, man, especially now, I just want answers, man. Like I can, and I've talked a lot of shit about David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, and the more that I read about some stuff now that this is wrapped, and
Yeah.
people that were involved in the productions of these films have kind of started to talk a little bit more about stuff. Um,
So what are you hearing?
so essentially that, I don't know if you're a novelization guy, but I've read the novelizations of these movies, and kind of
I
like
have not. I have not read them.
they're significantly different in a good way. But
Hmm.
um so what I've heard is that a lot of these decisions that I think people don't agree with came from Jamie Lee Curtis, and
Heard the
that
same.
her involvement kind of went beyond what like what an actor or actress's involvement would be normally, but because of her position as like in this franchise,
Yeah.
um that they gave her a lot of they gave her a, a pretty she gave everyone else a short leash, they gave her a long leash. And
Hmm.
um I think that's just a bad move. Like it, you end up making a movie for one person instead of for everyone, you know.
Hmm.
And um I just it's it's not surprising to me that
Hmm.
may or may not have happened, but it's almost like, would I've rather had a franchise without Laurie Strode, or not a franchise, a trilogy without Laurie Strode, and not
Hmm.
and maybe been was great, or do I want a trilogy with Laurie Strode that I think is kind of dog shit, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
It's just after reading the novelization of Anne's, and watching a lot of the cut scenes,
Hmm.
that I think were great. Um, it's really disheartening to think like, well, maybe this could have been like, even if I didn't love 18 and Kills, like maybe
Hmm.
it was all just a way to like present or like create this avenue for them to wrap it all up in ends. But the way they did it in terms of the theatrical release was just not what anyone wanted, man.
Yeah, so I agree with some of the stuff that you said. Like I have definitely heard like Jamie Lee Curtis behind the scenes, especially in Ends, was pretty or was responsible for a lot of the stuff that happened. Like
Hmm.
no, there's no doubt about that, and that's hard and it's tough to say because like man, like she's just one of my favorite final girls. I've met her, super nice, like so it's hard to like come away and walk away from that knowing that she is could be and maybe is responsible for how ends turned out. Um I'm somebody who, just kind of to let you know, I don't know if we personally talked about this, but I really enjoyed 18. I liked Kills a lot more than a lot of people did. Um and I hated Ends. I just think Ends in general was so out of place. Like to have Laurie Strode be this happy, you know, like go get it girl, like in such a good mood. I'll admit I love seeing her like that, but like you had just lost your daughter 4 years later. Like that Laurie Strode, the happy Laurie Strode should be placed in 2018, in my opinion, when it's 40 years later from that incident, compared to losing your daughter, losing your friends 4 years later when it, compared to ends. Like I just felt that like her
Yeah,
roles
yeah.
were kind of misplaced. Like it would have made a lot more sense if you had swapped. Like if you go into ends and like she's kind of waiting for Michael or hunting Michael in a sense because hey, you had just killed my daughter instead of like just being like this
It is really
so
weird.
yeah, it's just
Such
weird. It's just weird, and
such a weird choice.
I like seeing happy Lori. Like it was good to see. It just so felt misplaced.
It's
It
the
felt
wrong time.
misguided.
Yeah, yeah.
Very wrong time. Um, so I enjoyed 18. I enjoy kills for the Michael Myers piece. I thought that the dialogue in Kills was pretty bad. I thought the hospital scenes were pretty bad. I could sit here and name a couple more things that were pretty bad, but I try to separate myself. Like I enjoyed Michael Myers in Kills
Mm.
personally. For me, it was just good to see a badass Michael Myers. Like even though I'm not the biggest fan of the Rob Zombie films. Seeing a badass, brutal, vicious Michael Myers, like I like that personally for me.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm a fan of Eastbound and Down and some of the other projects that David Gordon Green has done, stuff that Danny
True.
McBride's done, and
Pineapple Express.
one of my biggest takes and like my almost something that I've like kind of pondered is that it's just so bizarre to me that these guys that are obviously good at writing
Mhm.
dialogue and stories and characters and creating these universes somehow drop the ball in like the biggest game you could possibly ever play in, right? So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how do you shine so bright in I'm just using this analogy like just a regular season game where you're not playing anyone really.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who you are, but somehow drop the ball in the biggest championship there is. So it kind of makes me think that it wasn't them and
Mhm.
that there were other actors. I don't mean actors as in like performers. I mean like other people involved that were really pulling the strings and really kind of
Yeah.
dictated how those movies ended up being presented to us. And you know what? I don't 18 has grown on me over the years
It will
and
probably grow on you more the more you think about Halloween
yeah.
Ends. Just saying.
Man, ends is just this thing that like eats at me and like in a way that I almost want to watch it just to see like where like what could have been different, I guess. And now that I've seen those cutscenes, like I have to watch
Mhm.
um it sucks it's not streaming anywhere, and that I'm gonna have to buy it, but just so I know, like
You
I
talking about Ends?
ends, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to watch the extended cut of it.
Well,
I
I hear
hated
that there are good cutscenes in there that shouldn't have
mhm,
been cut out. And to that point, like one of the biggest things that I hated with the whole David Gordon Green trilogy was the lack of suspense.
mhm,
Pretty much
yeah,
like that old classic Michael Myers, that stalking. We get it a little bit here and there, but not like we should. But if you go and watch Kills, there are a couple of scenes cut out to where he's doing that. I
mhm,
don't know if you've seen the cuts in Kills, but like there's this one scene in the flashback scene after Lonnie is getting picked on. He's walking down the street and he sees Michael standing behind a bush. And
yeah,
it's the classic Michael where he walks behind the bush and he goes and he's gone. Like, I know that wouldn't make the film that much better, but like, come on, like that is like classic Michael Myers that you should and could
yeah,
not cut
yeah,
out you can't do that. You
yeah.
cannot do that.
There were moments. Overall, I actually, this is actually kind of crazy. I preferred some big moments in Kills or in the theatrical version of Kills over the
Mhm.
extended cut.
Yeah.
I did like I wish that the flashback scene was as long as they originally intended it to be, which was
Me
like
too.
15 minutes.
Me
But
too.
um, the ending, the theatrical ending to me is much better.
Mhm.
I don't like the goofy Lori walking down the hallway in slow motion while everything else is like going on around her.
I
That's
agree.
not for me.
I agree.
I don't hate the monologue. It's actually the first time that like that Laurie Strode is talking that I don't hate it. And
Mhm.
um I don't know, it's mean and cold, and I like that about it. But you know, one thing I do have to say about that that trilogy, that I do appreciate, is that we got 3 films for John Carpenter to score, and they're some of
Yeah.
the greatest horror movie score. I mean, his work is great. It always is, no matter what
Yeah.
he's working on, and I'm thankful that I've got these scores to listen to from time to time, and you know, that
Yeah.
that part of the history of horror is still alive, and I think that's cool. I wish that was more common in horror films, to where they didn't go straight to like this kind of like ambient, just weird, like, I don't even know what to call it. That they went back to that kind of old school way of scoring films, and
Yeah.
it adds something to it. It really does.
No, it does, and he did absolutely phenomenal in all 3 films,
Mhm.
and I think that, um, I just think the visuals in all 3 films were really good, like, the cinematography was
Oh
phenomenal.
yeah, it's
Um,
shot great.
yeah, and, like, there's just I don't know, man, especially when it comes to that last one for me personally, it's just, like, there's elements in it that could be so good for a
Yeah,
different Halloween movie. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It doesn't
Um,
conclude,
it's
this
just
big showdown, like,
well,
it's just they dropped the ball on that, man.
you know, I assume you know about the untitled Halloween project with Gordon
Mm-mm.
Green,
I don't. I
or
don't.
it's Blumhouse, but I called it pretty early on, and
Mhm.
I think I mentioned it on a Nine in the Comments episode, but um, they had talked about doing like a I think an original kind of concept for Halloween was for it to be an anthology, and um, that was kind of the intention of John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, was they create these characters that exist in this world that weren't centered around Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. That's just another story in Haddonfield, and
No, listening to previous podcasts, that's something that intrigues you a lot.
yeah, yeah, and I think that that's what this project is going to be. It's either going to be that, or in some fucked up way, they're going to like tell more stories about Corey, which I wouldn't be surprised at. I don't know that I want to know much more about Corey, but
Yeah.
um, I don't know, man. They kind of set it up a little bit in ends, that weird little narration that Laurie's doing about like the sickness
Yeah.
that gripped Haddonfield, and like the people that were doing horrible things that had never even met. Wondering if maybe that's what it's going to be, but
Yeah.
in terms of just like the, like, I mean, like you said earlier, the direction of horror, like where we're going, it's hard to be excited about it. Um, it's like I'm interested. I'm like very cautiously interested in the direction that we're going, and some of the projects that are upcoming, but I'm not like excited like I would have been even 5 years ago to
Mhm.
hear about like a reboot or a remake, just because it's overdone. I mean, it really
It is.
is. Like
Um,
it's.
real quick. What time do you gotta get out of here again? I don't wanna hold you.
Oh no, we're good, man. You're good. Yeah,
Okay.
no worries. Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I didn't want you to go over time or anything
no,
like
no, you're
that.
good. You're no, it's all good, man.
No, you're I agree. I just think it's so for me personally, again, I go back to last year. Um, and I'm looking at my like top 10, and all of them that I really enjoyed, like as far as horror films, were new installments except for Terrifier 2. So I don't know how many horror films you were able to watch last year, what you liked and what you didn't like. So will you kind of touch on that? and if maybe you didn't like something, why you didn't like it, or if you didn't watch it, why did it interest you, and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
so obviously, I touched on Scream and Ends. I still have yet to watch Terrifier 2. It's a I think it's a Tom Savini quote where he said, "Oh, that's an old movie." Well, it's not old if you've never seen it before. So
Exactly.
there are stuff like I watched All Hallows End, and where I think you're introduced to Art the Clown, or All Hallows Eve. Um, I think that was like the first instance of Art the Clown, and
It
then
was,
I
yeah.
I watched the first Terrifier. Um, and it's a tough watch, man. It really is, but
It
it's
is. It is. It's one of
it's
those movies where like it has no great dialogue, doesn't really have a storyline. You're really there to be again introduced to Art the Clown.
mhm,
Like that's how
yeah,
I feel it like.
it's
And of course the
it's
budget was so low. It's
right,
like,
right,
what do you
right.
how much are you gonna be able to get out of it?
It's paced. The pacing of it's so weird, but you know what?
Yeah.
Like I appreciate that it's like the birth of this new character that
Yeah.
um I appreciate that. And I think that I haven't I you know what? I think that the reason why I didn't immediately watch Terrifier 2 um when it came out was that
Mhm.
I was still trying to like figure out what happened to my mind watching Ends, and
Oh, yeah.
try to wrap my head around that movie, and get out of that, really kind of get out of the mindset of that brand of horror.
Mhm.
Um, and I had to watch like other stuff that I just hadn't watched in a while to like get out of that headspace. And
Mhm.
I knew that if I watched Terrifier 2, that all I would have been thinking about was
Yeah.
slashers and Halloween and stuff like that. So it's something I need to watch. I think that it's something that I'll actually love, um, based on what I've heard. I think
Yeah,
I'll really
it's
enjoy
just
it.
one. It's still a lower budget film, compared to others. But you get a good storyline. Art the Clown is phenomenal in his performance. Again, you get a really, really good final girl. Again, if you're really big into slasher movies and gore, I mean, Art the Clown takes it up to another level, which is crazy to even think about. So, it was my favorite horror movie of last year. For all those reasons. And I mean, I agree again, with everything that you say about Ends. Last thing on Ends is I had done so many podcasts and so many lead ups to Ends and recaps to Ends. I was physically exhausted about talking
Mhm.
about Halloween Ends. Like I'm
Yeah.
somebody who can't get enough of Michael Myers, and like any poll that I saw when they asked what should be next for Halloween, I said take a damn break, at least a couple years personally,
Mhm.
because I was just so exhausted, like from just that one movie, not even the entire trilogy, just that literal one movie is just so exhausting because not only did you have the lead up to it and the anticipation and then the letdown for me personally, but you had everybody else, whether you liked it or hated it, people were just coming at you like
Oh
going
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. We were so like uh almost. I'm trying to think of a word. Just like we were piled on no matter which direction you turned, especially like on Instagram with horror, with the horror community. It was like suffocating, and um some very strong opinions, like people getting very upset about other people's thoughts on the film.
Yeah.
And that's not what it should be about. Like people shouldn't you should be able to decide how you feel about something and not get attacked on it. You know what I mean? Like
I,
just
f-
because I
I-
don't like it
yeah.
doesn't mean that I care whether or not you do. You know what I mean? Like it just
Yeah, I hated Ends, but I wasn't on like people's comments calling them like, "Hey,
no.
you don't know Halloween. You're not a real
Yeah.
Halloween fan." Like,
Right.
I
Right.
wasn't doing that.
Right, right. Exactly, and, like, I didn't write a Halloween movie, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't it's not my movie, so,
Like,
um
I hope people loved Halloween as many people like, even though I didn't like it, I want people to walk out of movies loving them. Like, I hope movies work for you. Like, that
mhm.
is I
That's a good
want a
way to
movie
think
to work
about it.
for you.
Yeah.
But
Um,
it just didn't work for me, so
it's funny, it always makes me think, originally, we had talked about kind of just briefly, discussing where horror is headed, and, like, I'd
yeah,
mentioned
absolutely.
the world we currently occupy, and film is just one that seems very, um kind of diminished in a way, and, like, kinda
Mhm.
dull and, like, overdone, and, like, just doesn't really there's no flavor there. There's no more seasoning on any of these things, and everything's a reboot of a reboot, and everything is a sequel or prequel of a movie that didn't need one,
Yeah.
and just, before
What else did you watch last year, though?
man, I honestly, like, I didn't I think because of being let down about 2
Mhm.
things that I was excited about.
Yeah.
Um, I really didn't let myself venture into new territory, and that was part of, like, me
Mhm.
telling myself this year that I need to do that, and that maybe I'll
Yeah.
be pleasantly surprised. So, really, I didn't branch off into much. I watched, a very, very low budget horror film that was on Tubi
Mhm.
called The Curse of Crom.
Mhm.
It's CROM. And you know what, man? Like, despite its shortcomings and some of the low budget cheese,
Yeah.
it was very well done. I think the guy's name's Tanner Gillum, but
Mhm.
he plays this character perfectly, and it made me it gave me some hope for the genre, and for just that there are people out there still that
Yeah.
want to create things that are different than everything else, and create and tell their own story. And I
Mhm.
think that's what's missing in really all film right now, and really just society, but especially horror, is that nobody wants to tell a new story. Everyone wants to tell these stories that have already been told and put their spin
Mhm.
on it, but, like, never asked anyone if they want it. Like,
Yeah.
most horror, I don't want half the stuff that, and I don't think a lot of people do. You know, uh, although I didn't really, like, step outside my comfort zone or, like, broaden my horizons with stuff last year,
Mhm.
I did start to look at, like, where we're going, um, in terms of what's up and coming, and projects that have been greenlit, and stuff
Yeah.
that's in development or in production, and the amount of reboots and remakes is, like, astronomical. It's crazy. Like,
Yeah. I'm
stuff we
I
don't
was
need.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, for me personally, I think one of the reasons I sit back and I really appreciate 2022 for horror. I know you hadn't got around to a lot of the movies, but like just looking at my list and what I loved, all of it was new. Like I was a big fan, like in movies that I'll be honest with you, I didn't have on my radar. A lot of these movies was outside of Smile, which didn't even make my top 10, but I thought it was an okay film. Like other than out of those movies, I wasn't really looking forward to any of them besides Nope, Jordan Peele's Nope. Um, outside of
So,
that, like X, Barbarian, Pearl, The
okay, those are
Menu,
yeah, those are good ones. You know
but
what? I actually spaced on that. I did see X.
okay,
And you know what? I, I was very tough on X. Um, I think initially because the my theater experience was absolute dog shit. It was like
I,
one of
I'll
the
tell.
worst,
Dude,
one
I'll
of the
tell you
worst. Theater.
that will make or break your
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it
it
has a
was
huge
awful,
impact.
dude. It was
It has a
awful.
huge impact.
Uh, I, I rewatched it. I rewatched part of it, and
Yeah.
there's a moment, and it's the only part of that movie I liked. Um,
Okay. Okay.
and it's the first kill. Uh, if that was if that's what they were gonna do, and that was like the defining the what was gonna define that film, then
Mhm.
they should have just like done it. They should have gone all in. And I know a lot of people say that like, oh, Pearl does that. Like what you felt in that moment, Pearl achieves, and Pearl is like from start to finish, that's what it is. But
It is, yeah.
you
I'd agree with that, but
it's it's hard. I didn't watch Pearl because it's like another like I do another comparison, like a sports analogy. I know you're a
Mhm,
sports guy, and it's like if the first if it's a 5 game series, right?
mhm,
And the or best of five, and the first you know 2 games are ass and are blowouts or just like 1-1, just terrible,
yeah.
boring.
It's like, are you gonna
Uh,
come back and watch it?
right, yeah. I mean, am I going to come back and waste my time to watch this? Because I can't. I don't know what's going to happen. It's the same thing. You go
Yeah.
into a movie, you don't know what's going to happen. So, like in
So
my mind, I'm thinking, why bother? So, um,
I definitely get that analogy. Like I'll be honest with you, I loved X. It was my second favorite horror movie of last year. Like I really, really enjoyed it. And I liked Pearl too, but I hear a lot of people, this isn't me, but didn't care for X, but really liked Pearl. So I don't know if that would be the case for you or not. I know that that is the case for Marie. Oh, I'm sorry, no, Marie watched Pearl. She hasn't watched X yet, but she walked
that's
away.
weird.
Yeah, I know. She really walked away liking Pearl. Um, but I was gonna say, like, just kind of looking at those lists, like we got a lot of original horror films last year that I feel like we're not gonna get this year because I looked as well. It's a lot of remakes and
A lot of
reboots,
remakes. Yeah.
and even though there were some last year that maybe I didn't enjoy or wasn't high up on my list, I can appreciate that somebody wanted to do something original and on their own and tried to make it work. Like again, I'm not the biggest fan of Smile, but that movie made so much money. So I'm happy for them. I'm happy for the horror genre, but like I don't know, you can't make a sequel out of there. You'll
Mhm.
try. I'm sure they might try because of the money they make, but then you're gonna start ruining these movies. Like Barbarian, I think was pretty good, but I don't think it deserves any type of sequel. And that movie blew its budget out of the water. Stuff like that. Like so, I don't know, man. I don't know I don't know where we're heading as far as if we're gonna get an original movie that's gonna be able to create really, really good sequels like we got in the past. Like I don't know if we have a genre or a franchise where it's like that outside of maybe Terrifier 2. But
Yeah.
from what I heard, um, um, Damien Leone wants to wrap up the Terrifier series after the third one. So I don't know, what that's going to mean for Art the Clown or anything like that. So really, I don't know if there is a horror movie out there, just despite all the numbers that horror did last year, if there's one that is going to be able to create a franchise. So I guess my question to you is maybe obviously you didn't enjoy X or some of the other ones that maybe you were able to see, or even if you don't, I guess my question is, are you okay with standalone horror movies getting a bunch of good of those, or do you really want someone to come in and create that franchise?
So I want them both, and for different reasons. So I want original ideas and original stories and original characters. Um, but I want them because I'm so sick of the same old shit with
Yeah,
bad in Hollywood turning interesting characters and good stories into these like dull pieces of shit. Like
yeah,
the Conjuring universe is a great example. Um,
man.
they,
Don't
I
get me
mean,
started on that.
they turn these like great characters with like some basis in real life into these like cartoon versions of themselves that are just silly, and it's
I agree because, like, I'll tell you this: one of my greatest theater experiences and one of my favorite modern day horror films is the first Conjuring movie,
yeah, it's a great movie.
and like the universe in general. Like, I enjoyed the second, and so I know some people didn't, but and then outside of that, I got to be honest with you, Bert. Those are the only 2 that I enjoyed,
Yeah,
and there are a lot
they're
of movies out there in
bad. I
that
mean, they got
universe. Yeah,
bad. They got
yeah,
bad. And so like where I was going with that is that like I guess selfishly I want there to be these original ideas because I'm just so sick of bad sequels and
yeah,
these stories that don't need to be just pounded into the ground, dude. Like, you can tell a story in 2 films and it's okay that it's over. Like, guess
exactly,
what?
yeah.
Now it's time to come up with a new idea. And that idea is done, come up with a new one.
Like, I'm
But
wondering how much of that, though, like, how much of that is and I wanna say it's probably a lot of that has to do with, like, Universe or Blumhouse because I
mhm.
believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know this more than me, Rob Zombie only wanted to make 1 Halloween movie, and he was kind of forced into making the second one because of the amount of success that it had.
Yeah, more or less. So really he wanted it to be one long story.
Yeah,
Um
that's what it was, yep.
and it ended up being almost impossible to do that.
Mhm,
And it just became that like his telling obviously the only part of the story, although it's portrayed in a different way that is original in '07, is like the Michael story. Um, and then after that, it's just like, okay, well, we've seen this story before. This is the same storyline as 78, but
yeah,
just the feeling is much different. The
mhm,
everything about it, beyond the fact that I think they're both very cold and
mhm,
um, unnerving. Uh, it's the same story. And then you get H2 and I mean, it is like couldn't be any more different. So I think that um I want both. From your original question, I want new characters, I want new stories, but I
me
also
too.
want if they can do it, if they can pull it off, I want that new franchise that can be a Halloween and be well,
Mhm.
maybe not be Halloween, but
Oh,
be
yeah,
something that like will continue to get people in whatever couches or wherever watching these things and become
yeah,
fans of this genre because like really at what point do you continue to make the same films and
mhm,
have people that are kids now be horror fans in the future. Will people always want to like gravitate towards that nostalgic feel and love 80s
yeah.
movies, or will that die? Uh I
I
don't know,
hope
man.
not,
It's just yeah.
I think, like, for now and I think it all depends, you know what I mean? Like for me, I got into horror films really, really young. But that, I gravitated towards those horror icons like a Michael Myers or a Freddy Krueger or a Jason Voorhees or Ghostface. Like I gravitated to them because like I had that person as to like if I were to watch like a movie I enjoyed, like we just talked about, like I enjoyed X, would I have the love for horror if I just watched X, just
Mhm.
watching that movie? You know what I mean? Would it have the same effect on me? Would it have the same effect on a young kid that would gravitate them towards the genre as to like I was when I watched
Right.
seeing that white mask walk down the street or poke
Exactly.
out of the darkness. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? And I don't
Yeah.
think we had that, despite
We don't.
despite there being again the Conjuring movie absolutely phenomenal. I love that movie, but like I don't know if my love for I don't know, man. I just think
It's
I'm a
it's not like
slasher type of person, so I don't know. Gravitating
it's
towards
like
those icons.
we don't have any timeless pieces of art or all in the moment and
Yeah.
they're very brief and I don't know how you go about creating that. I don't know how you like what's the term for like how you embed the zeitgeist of like a time, right? Like the here and
Yeah.
now of and make something to where eventually it's nostalgic. I don't know how you do that, but
Mhm.
however the John Carpenters and the Wes Cravens and these people these filmmakers did that. Um, I wish I knew because
Yeah.
I want that, but like just
So,
looking, man, just looking at, I had this pulled up.
mhm.
Um, you've got just a few, just to name a few big name franchises that are being redone, rebooted, remade. You have Blade,
Okay.
which why? Just leave it alone. Like, why does Marvel's
Agreed.
gotta like, just,
I know.
um, Escape from New York? I mean, come on. Yeah, just leave it
I
alone.
know. I know. I'm with you.
Obviously, we know The Exorcist. It's a David Gordon Green project. The Blob
You
is
bet,
apparently greenlit again, which
dude.
Rob Zombie was going to do The Blob, and it ended up not happening. You've got man, there was one. Oh, Revenge of the Nerds. I don't know if you're ever a fan of those
Yeah,
movies. I
that's
mean, they're
that's
not
coming
horror.
back
I
out.
mean, they're rebooting it. I mean, just all kinds of stuff, man. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But
So,
maybe they're gonna be cool. Who knows? But
uh,
probably.
you talked about the before we wrap up here, you talked about the John Carpenters and the Wes Cravens, those icons. What's your honest opinion on Jordan Peele?
So I don't have enough exposure to his films. The stuff that I've
Okay.
seen, um, so I'll just put it this way. I appreciate that he's willing to um, be his own filmmaker. Like he's not.
Mhm.
I don't think he's making films for anybody but him. Like and that's cool. I think that his
Yeah.
films are what he is thinking about at the time that he's writing them. And I don't think that he's kind of like being pulled one way or another by a studio or by producers or test audiences. I think that he is
Yeah.
making these films because he feels a certain way when he's writing them and creating these characters. And that's cool. I appreciate that. Um, I wish that more people did that. Now, does that necessarily mean that directors that do that, writers and directors that do that, are going to create something that I like or love?
True.
No,
Yeah.
but um, I respect and appreciate that he isn't making films for everyone to love. And I don't think any classic horror films
Did that.
are that
Yeah.
way. I don't think John Carpenter. I mean, if you listen to interviews of John Carpenter when he's talking about making Halloween,
Hmm.
um, like they didn't have the slightest clue that Halloween would become what it did, and they didn't make that
Yeah.
movie for the masses. They made it because it was a cool story,
Hmm.
and they thought that it would translate into a film. And um, I just I wish that more writers and directors kind of embrace that mindset. So I
Agreed.
like I said, in terms of like his actual pieces of work, there are a few that I need to watch that even though I don't love the stuff that I've seen, I need to watch them just so I can say that I've watched them and
Hmm.
um, like see how I feel about them. I know Nope had like very mixed reviews.
It did. Yeah.
And have you seen it?
Yeah. I enjoyed it more on my second watch.
Okay.
I think because it was so much hype for me personally. Because I am a Jordan Peele fan. I thought Us was super confusing, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I thought Get Out was amazing. I will say Nope is probably one of the most beautiful movies I've watched because a lot of it takes place at nighttime, and I was able to see that in IMAX. So if you're able to watch Nope in 4K, like just the visuals in it itself were phenomenal. They were so good.
Yeah, you know what? It's like I think it's I have a hard time be like loving films that are tough watches.
Yeah.
And even if I like the Exorcist is a great example. great film, like perfect film, and um, like from start to finish, there's nothing that needs to be changed about that film, and it's a
Agreed.
classic. Is it one of my all-time favorite films? No, but
Same.
um, I I appreciate what it is, and the fact that it broke ground in so many ways for the horror genre. I just think that guys like I don't have to like people don't have to like these films. They're not for everyone, and I think that's part of it is that too many directors and studios want to make things that they can present to the general like a general audience, and
They do. Yeah.
they're not targeting that like core group of fans of any genre. They're just
They're not.
creating these
Uh,
things just because they can and because they make
yeah.
money doing it.
And I think they know, and maybe we're guilty of this. I kind of had a feeling I wasn't going to like Ends, but I knew I was going to go see Ends,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think the studio knows that,
Oh yeah,
so
they just
they're trying to
reeling you in.
market.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
their goal is to try to market those people who probably wouldn't go see Ends. What might they like? Because they know they already got the core Halloween fans, whether they end up liking it or not. They're coming. They're getting,
Hmm.
they're getting our money because we're already sold on the
Yeah,
franchise itself.
yeah,
So their main goal is to attract the outsiders. We
yeah.
complain about the trailer length
That's
and all that, and they show way too much in the trailer, and absolutely, but they're trying to captivate that audience that might not go see a horror movie in October or in
yeah.
January or whenever it comes
That's
out.
dude.
So
That's a really good point. And like, I'd never thought of it that way. And now like thinking about how they marketed that movie and that they actually shot a ton of stuff just
mhm,
for teaser that was
yeah,
never part of the story. Um
at all.
I mean I mean think about how many millions of dollars that had, you know what I mean? Like from start to
Dude,
finish.
I
Uh
remember when that first teaser came out, I was like, it was short, it was good. I was like, oh shit, okay,
but it's
okay.
really but it has like most of it's not even like
I know, I
yeah, it's
know.
like, hey, it's funny. Like, one thing that I wanted to point out is that because I know people that are going to listen to this and have listened to none of the comments before, or just heard Kevin and I talk about modern horror. Um, I guess it might seem kind of hypocritical sometimes because I am such a fan. I mean, I have like three pretty modern horror films posters back here, and
Mhm,
um, I think what I want it's not that I don't like modern horror, it's just an easy way to say it. It's that uh I don't respect things that don't know what they are. And
agreed.
films like Halloween 2 and the '03 remake of Texas Chainsaw, like they are unapologetic. They know what they are from start to finish, and they don't they're not there to appease everybody.
Yeah, and
You
I'll
know.
say this, I think one of the reasons that I enjoyed Megan a lot more than I thought I would is because it doesn't try to be anything that it's not. Like, it embraces what it is, and you don't get that in a lot of films. Again, not saying it's like this drop dead Oscar-worthy film or best horror film I ever seen. I'm just saying, like, movies that embrace themselves and know what they are, and they're most likely gonna work out for the better, in whatever way. So, that's a real good point that you bring up. And I am on record. I enjoy the '03 Texas Chainsaw Massacre the most out of any of them. I
Yeah.
think it's so fucking good. I think it's I just love it more than any of them.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of
I
the original. So, and I
yeah,
honestly,
I agree.
if I'm being honest, this might be another hot take. I enjoy the remake of Friday the 13th more than the original. So,
Yeah, I'm not a big Friday the 13th guy in general. I like some of the stuff. I like 3, 4, and 5, and that's about it. But um, yeah, man, I think '03 Texas Chains. Even though I'm a huge fan of Rob Zombie's Halloween, I think that
mm,
it's probably the greatest horror remake ever done. And
yeah,
I I I mean, nothing can touch it, man. So
I love that.
uh it's not that I don't like modern horror all the time. That's like a blanket way to say it. It's the easy way to say
It
it.
is, yeah. Yeah.
It's just that I don't modern horror hasn't given me enough reasons to trust that it is in good hands.
Mhm.
So, um, prove me wrong. That's all. Hopefully they do. You know what? I really, really hope that David Gordon Green proves a lot of people wrong, and his version of The Exorcist is just awesome. I haven't.
I'm nervous about that, man.
I am
I'm
too.
nervous about that. And, I'm
Um,
with you. I'm not the biggest fan of The Exorcist. I do think it is a really good movie, but it's just a movie for several reasons that I just don't go back and rewatch.
mhm. Right, and yeah, we're not again like Marie cutting it on to take a little nap or something. It's a little comfort movie, but um, I'm gonna always. That's just such a weird thing. I've got to bring that up every time, man, because it's just the weirdest. If The
Yeah.
Exorcist gets brought up, like, sorry, Marie.
I don't know. Is it The Exorcist for her? Or I think it's Blair Witch for her.
Oh, Blair Witch.
Blair Witch.
Sorry, it's
No, no.
just as weird.
I
But
mean, still.
what you know what she might watch The Exorcist too. You never know. She might
She
be like
did say that.
flipping between.
She did say that's the hard watch for her. So
Okay, good. Okay, my bad, Marie. But yeah, you know what? I haven't initially. I was so pissed off about Halloween Ends that I was like,
rightfully so.
I'm not even gonna give David Gordon Green a moment of my attention. But
Yeah.
now that I've read a lot about stuff and stuff has come out about kind of maybe some of the underlying problems with that trilogy,
Mhm.
not really being uh his mistakes, I guess you could call them. I'm not going to give up on allowing him to prove me wrong. I guess giving
Oh,
him the
dude,
opportunity to do that. So
I can sit here and talk all day about how much I hate ends. I'm gonna go see The Exorcist. It's just
yeah, yeah,
again it goes back to like I'm just a horror guy. I'm gonna be there. So, uh, dude, this was a really really good conversation. It was
yeah,
good to sit
yeah.
back and actually have this really good dialogue and not go through a top list of whatever. It was really good to have this, man. Real quick before we get out of here, man, what do you have going on? Maybe at the podcast or just in general?
Yeah, so we don't have a date specific to where we're gonna record. It's gonna be sometime this week. But we're gonna do kind of similar to what we did today. And kind of focus just on what we've been doing the past month or so.
Yeah.
Um our kind of like a leap into 2023 and just how weird it is that it's 2023. Um talk a little bit about like some upcoming stuff in terms of like the horror world that we're excited about. Well, maybe excited is the wrong word, that we're interested about, and um also kind of talk a little bit about just like the how bizarre it is to even be sitting, staring at a computer screen and talking to somebody 8 hours
Yeah.
away, and just man, existing's weird, man. Like, so
I
we're gonna
know.
talk about all kinds of wild stuff. We want to kind of delve a little bit further into um the paranormal this year as well.
I love
And
that.
we,
Yeah.
we we had we had a lot of fun with Marie on and talking about our like favorite paranormal phenomenon stuff. And I think we're gonna probably do a couple more episodes like that. So I think it might be a good time to
Yeah. Some good
just
stuff, man. It was a
for
good
you
episode.
for you to hop on and talk a little bit about maybe some paranormal spooky stuff. So I don't know if hey, some people are skeptics, and that's even better, man. I like talking to
Yeah.
skeptics, but
I'm not a
um
skeptic. So,
okay, well I think that might be, we might have to have you and Marie on. That would be cool. So
yeah,
um
man, it's fun, man. I love the little community that, that we have and, that I feel like that a lot of us have online. I don't know if we talked about it on the show or not because the show is an hour and 43 minutes so far, but just the community in general that we've been able to build over Instagram, the horror community. I think it's good, man. I think everybody
Yeah.
gets along, everybody appreciates each other, everybody shares everybody's stuff. It's just really, really good information.
Yeah, it's
Really,
fun,
really
man. It's
good
fun.
friendships.
You know what I always enjoy, just like if I've had a shitty day, like I can depend on like seeing something on someone's page that like
Yeah.
I can take a minute to breathe and just like zone out, and or hop on there and I got a message from somebody like Kevin, and it's just something funny that
Yeah.
just makes me laugh, or like gives me the opportunity to gripe about something, or like this, or share kind of just what's on our mind. And
Very
I think that's
therapeutic.
cool, man. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is, man.
All right, man. Before we get off here, where can everybody follow you on Instagram or anything else that you're on?
Yeah, so just on the bottom corner here, 9 in the Comments podcast, and it's at 9 in the Comments on Instagram. Or you can follow me individually at Cosmically.creepy. And that's it.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and spending some time with me, man. It was really, really good conversation.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for having me on. Had fun.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Appreciate y'all tuning in to episode 34 of the Take One podcast. And I'll see you on the next one.